Hi everybody, Evan Manship here, Mainstay Property Group, Midwest Cash Offer, and the Manship Foundation here in beautiful Southern Broad Ripple, Indianapolis, joined by my coworker, close friend, Matthew Heller, our VP of Acquisitions here at Midwest Cash Offer. Matty, guys, tell the people hello.
What's up, guys? Happy to be on. I think I cracked the top 10, maybe, from what I've been told, as far as being on the podcast, so glad you're finally having me.
Matt brings up a good point. The podcast being the non-podcast podcast at Brick by Brick. Caleb was kind enough to bring this down. The Brick by Brick, ironically, is something I've been saying for a long time, kind of rebaptized into that culture by Dave Portnoy. But Brick by Brick's been something we've been saying forever and ever. Had this brick up in our little trophy case here at MCO for a long time, and Caleb was making the most, doing the most, pimping out the studio and all this other stuff. So the brick stays here at Brick by Brick.
Looks good. Good job.
Yeah, rock on, Caleb. Guys, Matt joined the company a handful of years ago, and obviously we work together every single day, but a lot of folks, everyone who's sat in this seat has been some type of business owner and taken a considerable amount of risk to get where they are. Matt is not absent from that in the fact where maybe 4 or 5 years ago, no, maybe longer than that, but Matt wasn't a real estate guy, didn't get right into this, so I think it's important to learn from someone who's been in Matt's shoes, started with a completely blank slate, and has really ramped up nicely in his career with what he's able to do, what he's tackling now, and even doing something really cool with his fiance currently. So Matt, maybe just vomit on the folks.
Yeah, I think a clean slate of my real estate knowledge when I started in this is like, putting it lightly, it was like clean slate, absolutely nothing. So my background is growing up, just nothing mattered but sports, right? And I kind of took that with me all throughout college, and graduated college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? Just kind of looking around. I knew I likely didn't want to sit in an office all day for 10 hours and grind away behind a computer. So I had the bright idea of moving out to California for a year.
Hell yeah.
And worked out on the beach, worked at a gym, and
cool.
said if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. So when I moved back to Indianapolis, still didn't know what I wanted to do. So you'll find a common trend of me not really knowing what I wanted to do for about 27 years. So when I moved back, I thought I'd maybe get my CPA, become an accountant, went to get my master's in that, and did an internship. So that first semester did an internship and did exactly what I told myself I never wanted to do. Sat behind a computer, crunched numbers, asked people in the office, like, do you guys like this? Like, you enjoy this? And they're like, oh, this is awesome. They get fired up about it. And I'm like, maybe I'm doing this wrong because I'm not necessarily enjoying this. So around that same time, I kind of knew what Clay and Ev did. Grew up with them. Our moms are really close friends, and grew up in the same neighborhood. Reached out to Clay and reached out to Clay on LinkedIn. So every year, I think it was around January, I send Clay the screenshot. So send him the screenshot. Hey man, you remember this? I think it was like 2018-ish. So we got drinks. 4 months later, they were looking for someone to come work for them, and they had a spot. I applied, didn't get the dispositions role. So
I remember that.
Hey guys, you're not good. Hey Matt, you're not good enough for the dispositions role. We'll give you the sit behind a computer and text all day, right? So came in as a generated leads all day, and I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad in college, but never really took action on it. And maybe that's one of the big takeaways: take action earlier. It took me 10, 15, 20 years to finally take action. Started working, started realizing like not only the sales aspect of it, but hey, real estate can build that wealth, get me to where I want to go. And the last 5 years has kind of been history.
It's funny to hear you go back and revisit. I didn't know you reached out to Clay on LinkedIn. That's funny. But Matt tells the reason Matt's here is hilarious, and I look back on this fondly. We were at our old office on 46th Street. I remember this like it was yesterday. We were opening up our doors to another acquisitions guy. We had one guy, Jairus, who's still with our group, who was pounding the phone, signing up contracts, and we're going to make the leap. We're going to bring on another guy, which we do like twice a week now, it seems like. But there's a big deal for us, finding this acquisitions guy. Ready, set, go. And we had Matt, who reached out, who was kind of in our web, our network, where we found our best folks. And we had another guy who kind of got brought into our network by our third employee, Josh at the time, who is ironically still with our group, Warren. And Warren had sales skills forever and ever. Matt was just some Muscle Beach dude that was just like, I'm here for it, man, which I fucking loved.
I was proud of it, too.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know. Let's rock and roll, let's do this thing together. And it was like, that's fine, but if I remember correctly, it was like, hey, you're going to text all day, and looking back, that was like the best thing I think that could have happened to you.
It was. It kind of just threw me into. I had no phone sales skills or anything. I know this isn't a sales podcast, but from where I've come then to where I am now, I used to. I think I told you this story. Go in the old office. There's a little back room, like a garage, if you will, makeshift garage, and I was so bad on the phone, and the office was so small. Ev, Clay, Jairus, we were all like almost on top of each other sitting there, and my calls were so bad. I used to get up and go in the back room to talk on the phone because it was just so bad. I'm like, these guys are going to fire me day one. Like, this is terrible. So from where I've come there to where I am now, it's crazy how quickly all that happened. But I was so bad on the phone that I was embarrassed to be in that same room.
It's funny. So naturally, we brought on both the guys. So we were kind of trying to decide between Matt and Warren for our open acquisition seat. Yeah. So let's bring Warren in. And so, Matt doesn't get the acquisition seat, but we can open up a spot for him to do this texting thing that was brand new, outbound SMS to attract leads for people. Ready, set, rock and roll. And Matt, again, was like, I don't care, man, whatever, let's do it. So Matt started in his office, what I called it, his desk, which was a makeshift desk. It was right next to our makeshift bathroom and our makeshift office next to the makeshift garage. Yeah. And maybe tell the folks now, what do you do now? How do you serve the organization? What's your day-to-day look like? What's your team look like? All that jazz.
Yeah, so started out in Leeds, and then about a year and a half after I was in Leeds, went to acquisitions, right? So out looking for houses all day. Did that for about 2.5 years. Absolutely loved that. Loved the acquisition side of the business. That's kind of my forte, if you will, as opposed to the disposition side. And end of last year, got promoted to VP of acquisitions. So my day-to-day running the sales team, right? We're the guys looking for the houses that you guys buy. So you investors buy, and pounding the phones, going out, seeing properties, managing the sales team, implementing training. So my day-to-day is really motivating, coaching, holding accountable the sales team, and love every minute of it.
And Matt's got, I think, 6 guys now on his team. We just hired 2 brand new folks. Who are just killers. And then we've really revamped the way that we look at this. But it's really neat to go back and look at some of the guys that are here now, and you see so much of Matt Heller in those guys that are just unashamedly green,
right,
and don't know what they don't know, and they come to someone for advice, and what do you know, it's Matt, who said, man, if you could only have been there right next to the makeshift office and the makeshift bathroom or my makeshift headset, doing all the things that I did. So it's really, really neat, and I'd love to hear you talk and maybe a little bit about the mistakes that you made or the things that you said absent of the bad phone calls.
Right.
But now you can look back and say, here, look, I got the scars, man. I did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I think the bad phone calls is the key thing, right? So it's easy now to sit here and when new guys come in and see Jairus on the phone or one of our guys, Fletcher, see them talk and be like, man, these guys are killers. They're really good at what they do. And when someone comes in and they don't have that training and don't have that knowledge, all they see is that finished product, right? So they kind of get scared like I did when I came in. I was intimidated when Evan Clay would be on the phone talking to these people, and I go, my God, I may as well quit because I'm never going to be that person, right? I'm never going to be that good. So I wish I had the recordings from when I had first started so I could show these guys what it looked like, but really it's just every day coming in, consistency is so big. So consistency and showing up, and I mean, we have Diego now. He's in week 3. Mm-hmm. He's already crushing the phones. Max just started. He's in training now. So I think just showing the transition of where this company's going is why I come into work every day. It's extremely exciting. It's
cool to say. It's fun to look back on. I mean, in the moment of anything, you think, man, like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to achieve this? We got these, really ambitious revenue hurdles now and these big KPIs, all these things we got to do. But to fondly reflect on reaching out via LinkedIn.
Right.
Or the old office on 46th Street where we were talking on top of each other
right.
nonstop. That's cool to look back on it and see. And I hope that Max and Diego and everyone else, that's got to give you the same level of feeling.
Yeah.
Like, great, now I can be the guy that drags them into what I did, so you can kind of go on and on.
Yeah, and those pictures, I sent it to Clay the other day. It popped up on my memories of me sitting back there with the toilet on the left, 50 leads a day in front of me, and me just hovered over a computer doing this, right? So looking back to where we've come now is just super cool to see.
It is cool, man. Thank you. I'm happy as hell that you were along for the ride of all people, because it takes a special person to thrive in this industry, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to walk in and say, hey, you're going to get your ass kicked for, I don't know how long you felt like that, year and a half.
At least a year, yeah.
But I think, again, like to to Matt's point, I don't want to steal his thunder, but like you got to get started at some point. You got to get your ass kicked at something forever. And a neat thing that Fletcher did, and I think that's likely one of his biggest success points. He's 24, 25 now.
Yeah.
And he's been having his ass kicked for the last 2 years, and now he's a killer, 25-year-old killer. You know, Matt's 33 and runs the whole company, frankly. He's being coy and saying he runs the acquisition team. It's partially true, the other part is the company. But that's it, is you get your ass kicked for a certain period of time, but you got to get started. And I'm hopeful, the whole point of this podcast, Brick by Brick, is let's get the first brick down, right? So the non-podcast, I'm not a podcast hero, I'm not that type of guy, but I'm sick and tired of talking like I'm the only person that's kind of taken that leap. I took mine in 2013, and I'm really glad that I did. But the coolest thing to see for me as a business owner is other people doing the same thing. Now, Matt. Yeah. Speaking of other steps, kind of growing your skill set, becoming acquisitions, VP of acquisitions, now in line to kind of do the whole kit and caboodle. Talk about your portfolio, kind of what you want to be doing, that type of thing, for maybe people who have questions.
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? I feel like every person that is a real estate investor talks about that, has read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and my biggest downfall back then was just not taking action, right? So it's crazy to think, had I taken action 10 years ago, where I'd be as opposed to taking action 4 or 5 years ago, right? Yeah. So rule number 1, always take action. If you have a feeling you should do something, take action. I used to fall in the trap of just reading books all the time and never doing anything, right? So until you take action, nothing's going to happen. On the real estate side of things, my future, it's real estate investing. It's people glamorize it, how fun it is. It's not always fun sitting there behind Excel spreadsheets underwriting deals.
This weekend doing
right,
it better.
That's right. So not always glamorizing it. And to go back, it was 2019 is when, 2019, 2020, we had an opportunity here. We picked up a duplex right down the street on 49th and Carville. So reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, I go, well, house hacking seems nice, right? Someone pays your mortgage, you're building appreciation, you have no expenses. Like, I feel like I'm 16 again, right? So I bought that in 2020, and that one purchase has been life-changing. Again, no expenses. It's like, do I live at home? Like, I have nothing at the end of each month to pay. Like, it's really life-changing. So house hacking is another huge thing. And for those of you who don't know what house hacking is, buying a duplex, renting out one side, living on the other. My brother lives with me too, so it's kind of like a double house hack, if you will.
What Matt has done is hacked the hack. The hack is essentially, it's like an inception house hack, if you will.
Right.
But I think that's a superpower. If you can get over the mental hurdle of a house hack, you're going to share a wall with someone instead of buying a house on your own. That is a superpower.
Yeah.
And Matt joined our team, I think in 2018, if not 2019, but a year and a half ish later. Matt was like, whatever, I'll do it. And it's worked out really, really nicely for him. Of course, if you look at like what mortgage rates looked like, what the 10-year Treasury was doing,
right.
I think Matt chose down to the day, certainly the week, where mortgage rates were the absolute lowest point they could possibly be in the history of the world. So he's that textbook guy. What is your mortgage rate?
It's like 2.8 and some change.
Matt Heller,
below
that's
3.
right. Real estate's
below 3.
Real estate's easy.
Free money.
That's
free
right.
money.
So again, they're not all going to. Shocking, they're not all going to be like that, but that's a superpower. Living with your parents is a superpower. I was 26 when I bought my own place, 24, 25. How old are you, Caleb?
23.
Bro's on
23.
his way. Bro's on his way.
Yeah.
Okay. But I lived with my parents for 2 years after I graduated college, best decision ever. And then I graduated into house hack. And then I graduated into proposing to someone who helped kind of satisfy bills and stuff. And now, and eventually we got our own big house, and we're doing our own thing. But there was a very segmented ramp-up process. And that's a superpower, trying to be able to segment those things and do them. So Matt's a great example of that. And not only is Matt a great example of that, but he's kind of let that example bleed into other guys who are doing the same thing. Tyler with our group, house hack. Fletcher with our group, house hack.
Yeah.
John looking at a house hack.
Right.
So if you've not entertained house hacking or fully understand what it is, Matt at MidwestCashOffer.com, he's kind of turned to the default house hacking guru around here. So that's a superpower. Sorry to steal your thunder.
No, you're good. And again, I bought it. It couldn't have been a better time when I bought that, right? But it's funny. I was telling John, who's looking at one now, I was showing him kind of, hey, when I underwrote this deal before I bought it, I was so nervous to buy this thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, is it going to cash flow? Is it going to do this? Is it going to do that? And almost didn't even pull the trigger on it because I was so worried, and I was just overanalyzing the deal. And it's, up to this point, likely been one of the best investments I've made.
And I remember sitting there because naturally, so we have a program within our organization where once you're here for a year, when's your 1 year? It's coming up, isn't it?
It's my 1 year was January.
So you're almost a year and a half now.
Yeah.
You've been here that long?
Yeah.
No, you were an intern for 6 months. That barely counts. When did you start?
November.
Okay, that doesn't count. We'll get there. This is no longer brick by
Your
brick.
official date.
Right.
That's right.
This is stick by stick now. But once you've been within our organization for 1 year, we essentially roll out the red carpet for you. Any deal that our group has access to, you get a deal on the deal.
Yeah.
You get a discount on the deal. You get to utilize our construction services. Clay and I lend our own money to get the deal done. Pretty much the white glove treatment on deals, and it's worked out really, really nicely as an added benefit, not only to the team, but like it's the most rewarding thing ever for me to see people do that.
Right.
So anyone watching that maybe wants to get involved in real estate, wants to get your ass kicked on the phone for a little while, kind of have Matt as a mentor, me as a co-mentor, jobs at MidwestCashOffer.com, careers at MidwestCashOffer.com. Caleb put the things up there too, but shameless self-promotion, that's what we do. That's what revs my engine.
And a great point there, find a mentor, right? I've been blessed to work with two of my mentors every single day, so I get to run things past them all day, but sometimes you don't have that, right? If you're not out working every day with mentors. So what you'll find, most people that are successful want to help, right? So don't be afraid to reach out to someone that is where you want to be, get that mentorship. There's a lot of like lingo in real estate that's extremely complicated. Real estate professionals love acronyms, right?
God,
so it's if you have any questions, confusion, anything like that, reach out to someone that's done it, and they can simplify it for you.
Yeah,
so
Matt,
find a mentor.
Yeah, Matt nailed it, and just kind of serve as a quasi mentor, maybe until you find your own, maybe a step mentor.
Right.
You're talking to him right now, but I think it's really, really important to consider. Matt, if you had to tell, maybe this just for fun, your best real estate story.
Best real estate story.
Maybe an acquisitions, and this
Right.
can be a hoarder house or
Yeah.
someone's life you save, whatever the hell it is. But best real estate story.
Right. Well, about the kind of houses we typically buy, about 25 stories come to mind. But the one that tops that list is it was actually a decent address over here on like 42nd and Crittenden, and it was a guy I'd been talking to him for probably 2 years, and you know some of the sellers.
You were in acquisitions.
Right, I was in acquisitions. Okay. Yeah, I was in acquisitions, and the seller says, "Hey, I just remodeled the house like 2 years ago, right? So I'm expecting to walk into something that's decent." And I walk in and opens the door. The smell instantly is unbearable. Walk in, first step I take, just a pile of dog shit about this big, right into my shoe. Didn't realize it when I did it though. So I'm tracking dog shit through his house, which was fine because there was dog shit everywhere anyways. And I get back to the office and Jairus is sitting next to me. I go, "Jairus, what in the world is that smell?" And I'm like sniffing around. Walking around, look at my shoe. It's just caked in my shoe. So I spent about 10 minutes in the bathroom rubbing it off my shoe. And moral of the story,
was it?
It was 42nd and Crittenden.
Well,
yeah.
no, where were we? Where was the office at this point?
It was here. Yeah, it was here. So right when we moved into
probably
this
still
office.
scrubbing the horse shit
Right.
out of the dog shit.
It was brutal. So the funny part of that story, I didn't realize it when it happened, right? So I come back and finally figured it out. And another one that comes to mind, two top ones that come to mind is one in Bates Hendricks, another good address, right? So I go out there, knock, 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 no one's answering. I call this guy. I'm standing out there for probably 20 minutes. Finally, I hear someone messing with the door. He answers the door, whitey-tighties, just standing there like this. So, "Hey, I'm Matt. Nice to meet you." And he just, "Hey, come on in." And his girlfriend's on the couch. She's in, like, her underwear, too. And I go, "Okay, guys, like, or what are we doing here?" But anyways, answers the door with his whitey-tighties on. Didn't get the deal, but that's one of my top two stories.
I was hoping you'd say the cherry on top. Like, yeah, sign it up right
Yeah,
there.
right,
That's a white-tighted deal. That's perfect. Unfortunately, Brick by Brick would be a much longer podcast piece of media content if we had to talk about all our stories.
I got a Rolodex of them.
I just get every acquisitions guy in here and just do a circle until someone runs out. But I feel like you still win that one. Yeah. So find a mentor, guys. Take action. We say all the time, we got a big, Clay has a big mural in his office here that says "Burn the Boats." That's probably the biggest thing that I've taken away from what you're saying is like take a piece of action, whether it's send the postcards or buy that house or join that organization. Hell, Diego's a great example.
Right.
I'm just done serving. I can't provide for my family this way. I'm going to burn the boats, look back, and pursue this religiously. And dude is going to be an absolute killer. Frame this for when Diego makes a Millions Club. come back and revisit the last part of this podcast
Right.
because it's going to happen.
That's right.
But take that leap, burn the boats, don't look back, and that way you have there's no opportunity for you to not win, right? You can't fail at that point. So burn the boats, don't look back, take some action, find a mentor, and you'll start having stories of your own.
Yeah. Consistency too, right? If you're doing this, if you making calls for a week and you don't find a deal and you give up, it's never going to happen, right? Some of these deals take 2-3 months to finally come to fruition. So if consistency is big too. Take action, consistency, house hack if you can. Find a duplex, house hack, live like you're 16 with no expenses. It's a superpower.
Forgive me for doing this. I can't stand people like this that give blind advice but nothing tactical to take from it.
Right.
Just buy a duplex.
Yeah.
That's it. Buy
Buy
a
a
duplex.
duplex.
Find a way to buy a duplex. Call me, call Matt. We'll see if we can help.
Yeah.
Buy a duplex. The rest is that's burning the boats 101 right there. Just buy a damn duplex. End of story. Buydamnduplex.com. We'll buy the domain. Evan at buydamnduplex.com. Matt at buydamnduplex.com. Reach out if you have any questions, guys. Social media, Caleb put all this stuff below. This is Brick by Brick. We'll see you guys next time.